Hello, my friends, and welcome to another segment in Let's Talk Herbs. Today, I want to continue our discussion about how to cope with viruses during this very challenging time. I want to remind you that I'm not a doctor, I'm an herbalist, and that means that I have an understanding of how plants can help us in supporting our health at all times when we're trying to boost our immune systems, to counter threats from illness, or during the time that are ill and when we're recovering from illness. Herbs have been around a very long time. I'm not a doctor. Once again, this is not medical advice. But as a background to today's discussion, I want to talk to you about why herbs are helpful for us. There's a general perception that people of long ago probably experimented and failed sometimes and succeeded sometimes, and just trying out an herb, and if it killed them, they didn't do it again, and that sort of thing. But in reality, in times when we were more of an organic part of our biosphere and our environment, we paid close attention to plants. It's a survival skill, after all. We had to know what worked and what didn't. And part of what we did was we paid close attention to animals. If an animal seemed to be sick, for example, after it ate a particular plant, we noticed that and then we avoided that plant. Or if an animal was sick, ate something, and then got better, we paid attention to that too. So it's not just tried and true and test and fail methodology. The second thing that I want to highlight today is that unlike human beings who, when faced with a threat, can get up and run away, plants can't do that. They don't have legs, they don't have feet. So what do they do to protect themselves against the threats that they face from animals, birds, insects, pathogens in the soil, and so on? They can't go away. Your local oak tree, beautiful as it is, can't get up and walk. So plants predated us on the planet, Homo sapiens, human beings, by millions of years. So they've had a lot of experience encountering threats. What do? They produce chemicals, phytonutrients, and constituents that help to protect them against predators. It's been seen in studies, for example, that if there are two plants, let's say marigold plants, that are placed a room apart, if one marigold plant is infested with disease, the next marigold plant somehow senses this, don't quite know how, and it begins to produce chemicals that will protect it against what is attacking the first marigold plant. In the wild, it's easier because plants are next to each other often, or can sense chemicals on the breeze when it blows, so that they mount a defense preparatory to being attacked by whatever it is that is a problem for the other plants around it. So once having mounted this defense, the plant is effective against countering the threat. Now, what happens when people then eat this plant? We ingest those phytochemicals, those constituents in the plant that protect us against various things. And that's why plants are so effective in maintaining our own health, because they already know how to maintain their own. Think about it. If we stop killing plants with herbicides and stop killing insects with insecticides, our best defense, as it is with plants, is to be extraordinarily healthy. And that is where herbalism has its strength, because we seek to enable the human body to be extraordinarily healthy as a defense against predators, and then, which are microbes. And then, once having done that, if we succumb to illness because we're too stressed or any of the other myriad of things that can happen to us, then we can apply specific defensive methods to the specific illness. It's not like you go to the doctor and the doctor wants to kill something that's in your system. Instead, what we want to do is enable our own body's resources and defenses to counteract the threat by mounting our own immune systems. So that's a distinctive difference between pharmacology and standard medical practices. This is not in competition with standard American or European practices. It is in correlation to it. And what I would like to think is that we can maintain our own health so that we don't even have to get to the stage where we have to counter serious illness. Can't always do that, obviously. I mean, the current pandemic is a real concern. I'd like to keep us healthy enough not to be able to counter the illness, because science tells us that most of the cells, most of what is in the human body is not actually human DNA. It is bacteria and viruses and fungi and molds that we're always encountering in our own bodies. What we need to do is to maintain a balance in our own bodies that helps our own systems to fight off illness if it should occur. So that's a long-winded explanation. I hope you understand this and you can see where I'm coming from with our talk today. So what I want to share with you today are more herbs that will help us during this challenging time. Once again, to review the stages of illness, our prevention, which is where I've talked about today. And then the acute stage, when you do become ill, a severe stage when you might be severely ill and maybe in need of standard medical practices. You might need surgery, you might need hospitalization. So I'm never in a position to say, don't follow up on those things. I would like us to be able to not have to get to that stage. Then there is the recovery stage, and then finally back to prevention. So today I want to talk about the recovery stage of the illness. So we're in recovery, moving toward prevention again now. And there are certain kinds of herbs that are called tonics. What does that mean? It just makes you feel better. It's a nighttime nightcap. What does that mean? Basically, tonics are a group of herbs that help the human body to counteract stress from disease, from emotional stress, from all kinds of stresses. And we are constantly faced with stresses in our environments. It is, the stress could be from pollution, air, water, soil pollution. It could be emotional distress. And so the first one is called astragalus, astragalus, astragalus. And this is an herb that we use as a root, and we will prepare an infusion, which I've described before. You can eat it, cook it in your diet, add it to soups or whatever. It's tasty. Or you can make a tincture of it, which I've described before. This is a tonic that you can take every day for the rest of your life if you choose to. It helps the body to counter stress. Oats, oatmeal, oat straw, oat milk. Oats in various preparations are helpful. I use it as an infusion once a week, which I've described before. You can also use it as a food. I frequently eat oatmeal. This is also a tonic. which helps the body to fight stress. Oats is helpful to the mucous membranes of the system, so in the digestive tract, in the respiratory tract. It helps us maintain our health in those regions. And then there are bitter herbs. Think about the lowly dandelion. It's in your lawn. People love to hate it. They want to kill it. They think it's ugly. Dandelion is one of the most generous of all herbs in the 10,000 or so herbs that we know about thus far on the planet. If you have access to a dandelion plant that has not been treated with herbicides or pesticides or insecticides, it's not too near a road surface so that the air pollution from cars and such have entered its chemical constituency. If you're lucky enough to be close to the edges of a field, for example, or a forest where dandelion grows, dandelion is good to eat, especially early in the spring. The young leaves are not as bitter as the older leaves, and you can eat them raw in a salad. You can cook them like spinach. They really are very good. Dandelion flowers, before they go to seed, are edible. You can shred them and add them to salads, for example. You can cook it. You can even make wine from it, which I'm not going to give you the recipe for. You could look that up if you wanted to. Dandelion wine maintains many of the constituents of the plant that are so helpful. Dandelion is specifically known to be a restorative and a tonic for the liver. Now, the job of the liver in the human body is to purify the blood, so to speak. It strains out things that you might not want circulating in your system. As a bitter herb, it's useful for digestion. If you were to prepare dandelion tea, you can get that in tea bags in the grocery store, or you can buy the dried herb, which is what I do. And you prepare tea by steeping it for 5 minutes, or a decoction, which is to simmer it for 10 minutes or so and let it cool, which gives you more of the constituents of the plant than a simple tea would do. If you do that, and then have it before a meal, or if you make a tincture of it, which is what I also do, and take that tincture in a small amount of, usually water for me, before a meal. If you have acid reflux, for example, you're much less likely to experience it if you do this first before the meal, because dandelion sort of notifies the digestive system that food is coming, and it enables the liver to release hormones that help with digestion, so that the proper amount of acids are released just before the meal in order to help that digestive process. So I recommend that to you highly. All of these herbs are tonics and help with the immune system and will help to keep you healthy. So today I have mentioned a number of herbs: astragalus, oats, and dandelion. Dandelion you can readily find in growing naturally in your environment. Oats are readily available in the grocery store, or these things you can also buy in dried form on the internet. I've mentioned a number of resources before. I will do that again. Even if you go to Amazon.com and do a search for any of these herbs, you will find various places where you can buy it in bulk. I buy it a pound at a time. mountainroseherbs.com is a source that I trust. Frontier Co-op, COOP.com is another, and herb-pharm.com sells tinctures exclusively. And then there is Pacific, as in the ocean, Pacific Botanicals, BOTANICALS.com. I hope you've enjoyed today's discussion and the herbs that we discussed today. Stay well, be healthy, be kind to one another.